Okay, so just simple question. What is a meteorite? What is a meteorite?
Sir, rock in a solar system.
Yes, it's a rock in a solar system which is captured by Earth due to gravity, and it ends up falling on the Earth. Okay, it does end up falling on the Earth. Okay, otherwise you just call it a meteor. Many times what happens is when these bodies they enter atmosphere due to friction, they are burnt up. Okay, they do not fall on the earth as intact pieces. Okay, so a meteorite is just a rock that was found elsewhere in the solar system and was orbiting the sun or a planet for a long time. Okay, it was orbiting it for a long time and was eventually captured by earth's gravitational field, and this is the important part, and it fell to the earth as a solid object. If it doesn't fall as a solid object, it is disintegrated into dust, what do you call it in that case? So usually if
Meteors.
yes, they are just called
Comet.
meteors. No, not comet. Comet is entirely different thing. Okay, then that's not a comet. So this is a meteor. So for example, when they enter the solar system, so it will burn. Even meteorite will experience some disturbance when it enters atmosphere, but part of it will be preserved. So whenever it enters atmosphere due to friction, it will burn up. Okay, due to friction it will start to burn up, but sometimes if it is big enough it may land on earth as solid rock, and that is what you will call it a meteorite. Otherwise you will just call it a meteor. Okay, now some meteorites are very important because they tell us about the original or the evolution of the earth, the birth of the solar system. A lot of information is known from meteorites. They're so primitive. For primitive means they have changed very little from their original state. So they sort of like represent the time when the solar system was formed. So they contain traces of interstellar dust which survived thermal processing in the solar nebula. These provide information about evolution of objects in the solar system. Okay, so they are very important. So when you are writing your answer, you have to give a brief account of what a meteorite is and why are meteorites important. Okay, now this question, types of meteorites, is very important. So you should have answer to this question in your notes. Okay. You shouldn't have to think twice when you're writing this answer. It is asked almost every year. Okay. So there are different types of meteorites here that you see. Okay. So we are seeing some of these meteorites here. Actually, I will, okay, these are not present here. I will also talk about these kinds of meteorites in the next slide. Okay. There are actually three main types. Okay, you see more here because these types have certain subtypes. Okay, so these types of meteorites, again, this is the one that I wanted to show you all. Types of meteorites. So there are three main types, and it is very important, and it's not difficult to memorize these. Okay, you have iron meteorites which are formed of iron. Okay, then there are stony iron meteorites. They have equal amounts of metal and silicate crystals. Always you'll see rocks, they are made up of what we call silicates. This term will appear again and again. What are silicates? Basically these, all the rocks that you see, most of the rocks, okay, they're composed of silicon and oxygen. Okay, and then there could be other cations involved, aluminium, iron, calcium, potassium, all those may be involved, but most of the rocks, except let's say for example limestone, they're composed of silicon and oxygen. So these are called silicates. There are different types. We will study that when we study mineralogy course. There are different types of silicates. So this is what so you can think of silicates as basically rocks. Okay, or that is why here it is written as stones. Okay, so these are known as stony iron meteorites. And then there are what you call stony meteorites, which have mostly silicates. There may be some metal present even in stony meteorites, but they are mostly silicate. So again, very important. Stony iron meteorites, they can be of two types, pallasites and mesodiorites. Stony meteorites can be chondrites and achondrites. And then chondrites can actually have many subtypes. We don't need to go through all those subtypes. Only thing that we will go through are what are called carbonaceous chondrites, and other ones are what are called ordinary chondrites. And then there can be many more other than this. Okay. So you have stony meteorites and all these types. Very important, easy to remember. Okay. I think most of you would already know what is the structure of the earth. So you have iron and nickel alloy in the core. Okay. So this is inner core. Similarly, you have outer core, which is formed of the same sort of like iron nickel alloy. There may be some cobalt. So this is inner core, outer core. Then you have mantle. Okay. So this is mantle. And then there is very thin crust on top. Okay, so the mantle and the crust, they are mostly silicates, and the inside is mostly iron. So the same thing we see in case of meteorites as well. So some meteorites, they are formed mostly of iron. They're called iron meteorites, and they usually represent these cores of planets. Okay, so some, due to some differentiation, due to melting, maybe they formed the inner metallic and outer silicates layers, maybe they were removed or they were not present. So you have iron meteorites, you have stony iron meteorites and stony meteorites. So the three main categories are these, and then there are subtypes of each of these. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Sir, can you explain that, sir? What is chondrules?
we'll come to it. We'll come to it. Don't worry. Okay. We're studying meteorites, so we'll come to that controlled parts as well. Okay. We'll study these in
Okay, sir.
details. Okay. So there are different types of meteorites. Okay. The first one is what we call the iron meteorites. Okay. We've already seen this. Iron meteorites are mainly iron nickel alloy with distinct crystalline structure known as Widmanstätten texture. This is probably a German term. You see these kind of terms, Widmanstätten texture. You can see here, can you see in this image, some bands are present, sort of like this lamellae. Can you see this? It's basically a meteorite which you have cut and polished. Okay, you have cut the meteorite from the middle and then you have polished the surface. You see these sort of lamellae. Okay, these are formed by varying levels of nickel. So the amount of nickel, it may vary in the rock. Okay, so most iron meteorites are thought to be cores of asteroids. They're thought to be cores of asteroids, just like planetary cores are made up of metals. So they're thought to be cores of asteroids that melted in early history of the radioactive Earth. Okay. Again, this term is important to remember. Okay, so don't just write. Everyone will write iron meteorites are formed of iron. That's not like very, I would say, genius kind of thing. So you see this varying levels of nickels. Nickel may amount of nickel in a meteorite, it may change. So in some places there may be less nickel, some places there'll be more nickel. That is what will cause this Widmanstätten texture. Okay. So again, they're thought to be cores of asteroids that melted early in the history due to radioactive heat. There were some elements which are present. Okay, because of radioactive decay, they are not present anymore, or shouldn't say elements, radioactive isotopes. They would have generated heat and probably they melted these these asteroids. And then once they melted the asteroids, what will happen? Due to gravity, heavier elements will go to the center. Okay, what are heavy elements? Iron, nickel are heavy. Silicates, oxygen, helium, hydrogen, they are light. They will not go to the center. Okay, so they became differentiated. Okay, so if you have a big chunk of rock in which different types of heavy, let's say these yellow ones are heavy elements and the green ones are light ones, so this is non-differentiated. What may happen is, what you'll call a differentiated planet is when the light ones and the heavy elements, they get segregated. So heavy will go to the core and light will go outwards. Okay, so this is differentiated. So the yellow ones are heavy elements and the green ones are light. Okay, so what happened is when the asteroid got melted, so the heavy elements will move to the center, and maybe the outer part was then ripped off. Okay, so this heavy part will mostly be iron and nickel. Okay, this heavy part will be iron and nickel. So this is what these iron meteorites represent. Okay, sometimes they have an iron core and concentric layers surrounded by silicate mantle and crust. Again, amount of iron will be more than silicate. Okay, but the core may sometimes be surrounded by the silicate mantle and crust, just like terrestrial planets. So even in these meteorites, you can iron meteorites, you can sometimes see that structure. But the main component of the meteorite will be iron. Amount of iron will be more than amount of silicate, much more. They tell us great detail. What will they tell us about? They tell us about the metallic core of the planets and how that formed. Okay, so this is what those meteorites are. Very simple. The second one, they're stony iron meteorites. Okay, so they have almost equal parts of iron, nickel metal, and silicate mineral. So it's like close to 50-50 ratio. Okay, of iron, nickel, and silicate minerals. They're also very beautiful. Sometimes people make gems also out of these. Okay, so they make gemstones out of these. And there are two different types of stony iron meteorites. The first one is called palasite, and the second one is known as mesosiderite. Okay, so coming on to what palasites are, they look actually very beautiful. So we'll see what these actually look like. Very important, you have to remember, they consist of abundant olivine crystals of gem quality. Of gem quality, you can make gemstones out of these. Okay. Now, those who are from non-geology background, they may not know this term. We will come to this part later on. But what kind of mineral is olivine? Is it felsic or mafic? Under what kind of rocks will you see mineral in?
Massive.
It will be close.
Mafic.
Okay. So these usually represent mafic part of the planets. Okay, they're abundant in olivine crystals and in a continuous base of iron nickel alloy. So you have a base, so you can see here that there are some crystals, and then there is this base of metal. That black material that you see, that is metal. Okay, iron and nickel. So that is why they are called stony iron meteorites. Okay, so they have stone part, the silicate part. So this olivine crystal is basically your silicate part. That is the silicate part, and this is the metal part. So the silicate is the stone part, and this metal part is the iron part. So they have stony iron meteorites. Okay, very important. So they first of this have a distinct texture, and again they are regarded as samples of core mantle boundary material from differentiated asteroids. So you had those differentiated asteroids. Okay, part of it.
So coming to Alvin crystals, those are abundant with peridot or only the direct Alvin minerals?
So here these are direct olivine crystals. Okay, not the peridotite rock, but direct olivine crystals are embedded in the metallic base. Okay,
Thank you.
and then what they are thought to represent is in which part, if you are looking at Earth, in which part of Earth will you see metal and silicates close to each other? If you're looking at Earth, you know that Earth has a metallic core. Okay, you have a metallic core. I'll not draw inner core and outer core. And then you have a silicate mantle. Okay, and then crust. So let's say this is mantle, this is iron. Where will you expect? So these are stony iron meteorites. So there is silicate as well as there is iron. Where do you see this? Where will generally this condition be met?
Sir, mantle, sir.
Not just mantle. In mantle, it will be mostly silicate. You will not see metal in mantle. It will be
Outer
at the
core.
core mantle boundary.
Sir,
Okay.
sir,
Yes. At this part. Okay. So again, see, this is not a difficult question. It's pretty easy. If you know the structure of Earth, actually this is how we sort of interpret structure of Earth. We combine all the evidences from seismic, from these parts. Okay, so that is what we study. So these are thought to represent that core mantle boundary. Okay, again, not very difficult to remember. It is stony and iron. So you have stone, you have iron. Where is stone and iron present? It's at the core mantle boundary. So they're thought to represent core mantle boundary. So only two things you have to remember. Mostly olivine crystals, they're thought to remember core mantle boundary. Maybe you can draw this diagram here. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Is it like olivine crystals are embedded as phenocrysts or?
Yes, as phenocryst, because they are formed from again they will start to crystallize. Okay, phenocryst we don't like usually use these terms. Here we usually used for those as earth, but they are like phenocrysts only. Is that because this metal that is present here, it's not I would say forming big crystals of it itself. Okay, why I won't call it phenocryst, because matrix, when you call it metal, can this entire metal can form a single structure. Okay, so when we talk about crystals and all, okay, so usually, for example, if you're talking about silicates, they can be fine grained, they can be glassy in nature, phenetic, aphenetic. Usually we have defined these terms for crystals, but analogous to they are like phenocryst, is that you have these olivine crystals. But normal phenocryst that you think of, that you had a fast, you have already large crystals in magma, and then that magma crystallizes very rapidly, so the remaining part becomes fine grained. So the reason is not that here. Okay, that's not the reason here. The main reason is that metals will not form these sort of grains usually. Okay, metal will not form those grains, so it's not right to use the term that phenocryst here. Okay, so this entire
Okay, thank you, sir.
ground mass or the matrix is formed by metal. Actually, sometimes you can think of this whole metal as a single crystal. Okay, the next part of stony iron meteorites is what is called mesodiorites. Okay, the base of is again iron nickel alloy in discontinuous is discontinuous, and olivine is, if present, is an accessory phase. Okay, so in last figure you saw it was a continuous phase. Okay, all this black part, it is connected to each other. Okay, you don't see any gaps in between. Okay, it's all connected, it's a continuous phase. In these mesodiorites, what happens is this iron nickel alloy is a discontinuous phase, and if olivine present, it is minor. Okay, then there is silicate portion, which is heavily brecciated. What do you mean by brecciated?
The rock which is having an angular
Yes,
view.
yes. No, you're correct. I get your point. Okay, so we'll study this breccia, or they will appear different places in geology. So it's important that you understand this term. What is breccia? You will see it in sedimentary geology. You will see it in structural geology as fault breccia. You can have impact breccia due to asteroid impact. And now you're studying breccia in meteorites as well. Okay, so what you have is this sort of like breccia. So you generally have, for example, you would have seen rocks in which there is sand. Okay, there are sand grains. And then there are some embedded grains, pebbles. Okay, big ones. There is fine grains, and then there are these sort of angular grains. So this kind of rock is known as breccia. Okay, if these bigger grains, red grains that I've shown here, or those like kind of pebbles, sometimes they will not be angular. So as I've drawn here, they will be rounded like this. Okay, if they're angular, or they may be rounded. In case of sedimentary rocks, if they're rounded, what is the term that you use?
Conglomerate.
Sir, conglomerate.
So use the term conglomerate. Okay. Actually, I think there's misspelling here. These are not mesodiorites. These are mesosidereites.
Siderite.
Yeah, these are mesosidereites. Okay. So mesosidereites, they form when debris from a collision between two asteroids is mixed together. Okay, so how will you form these big fragments? Is that you have two asteroids, maybe they are mixed together, debris two asteroids collide together, and then they generate these chunks, and then they coalesce together after that. So in the crash, molten metal mixes together with solid fragments of silicate rock. So still this part that is present here, you still have metal inside these mesosideриtes. They can therefore both record the history of both meteorites and reveal a snapshot of condition required for asteroids to melt and form iron core. Because this part also, the collision can also increase temperature and result in melting part. Okay. So these two types are again two types of stony iron meteorites. What is the last part now? Moving on to the last part. The last part is about the stony meteorites. They are mostly formed of silicates. So the majority of the meteorite finds, so most of the meteorites that we find on Earth, they are actually stony meteorites. They mostly consist of silicate minerals. There are two main types, chondrites and achondrites. Now I will come to your question, what are chondrules? Okay, so you are asking what are chondrules. Usually these chondrites are ordinary and carbonaceous chondrites, and there can be many more. Just like silicate rocks, they can have different types of composition. So based on that composition, you can have different types of chondrites. So the two main types are chondrites and achondrites. So what are chondrites? Okay, so at over 4.5 billion years old, so these are over 4.5. We have dated these chondrites. Okay, that is how actually we know about the age of the Earth mostly. So we have dated these chondrites. They are over 4.5 billion years old, and they are some of the most primitive and pristine rocks in the solar system and have never been melted. That is important here. They have never been melted. Why is it important? Because what happens if the rock melts? Melting results in
Differentiation.
exactly melting results in differentiation. And what happens once you have differentiated rocks? Then part of it may be removed. Okay, if let's say we saw that figure, if let's say all the heavy elements are present in the center, let's say this was original condition. Okay, and in another case which is not differentiated origin, this is how it will look like. Okay, now let's say if for these two types of meteorites, okay, for these two types of meteorites, due to subsequent history, some changes will happen, right? So what will happen is, let's say I break a part of it. Let's say for this one, I break outer layer. Some of the outer layer is broken. Now does it represent the original composition? Does it represent original composition if I remove outer layers? Because meteorites, maybe they will lose they're bombarded by material or something will happen.
No,
So
sir.
it will not represent. What will happen is it is enriched in the core now, enriched in metal. There is more metal in it than should have been present. Okay. So what is happening is, now after, if its size is reduced, it may not represent actual composition. Now because in the second case, in case of chondrite, all the material is properly mixed together. Even if you remove part of it, if I remove part of it, it will still represent my original conditions. It will still represent original conditions. In the second one, you have more of this yellow stuff than there was actually in the entire chondrite. So that is why they're better for us to understand the original composition of the solar system. Again, or original composition of what formed the actual terrestrial planets. Their appearance, they're made from droplets of silicate minerals with very small grains of sulfides and iron nickel metal. So metal is still present there. It's not that metal is not there. Okay, but because what happens is, due to melting, many times asteroids, they are melted, they get differentiated, and that outer material is removed. You are left only with iron. Here everything is mixed together, even iron is present. The millimeter sized granules give chondrite their name. Okay, these millimeter sized granules, and these are what are called chondrules. Okay, these grains that you see here, these are called chondrules. And there are actually many subtypes of chondrites which are present. Okay, so again very important. So chondrite composition will be equal to overall earth composition. Okay, overall composition of the earth. So you have stony meteorites, chondrites. Again, this define the material from which the solar system actually formed. Okay, they have been little changed. They have compared to the rocks from larger planets and have been subjected to geological activity. Okay, so larger planets, for example earth, is also differentiated. So it's difficult to know many things just based on study of rocks on earth, because earth itself is differentiated, but these are sort of like not affected by geological activity. All right, chondrites can tell a lot about how the solar system formed. There is one. Now there are actually two main types that we'll study, although there are many more within this. One are called carbonaceous chondrites. They're rich in water, sulfur, and organic material. Okay. Again, it shouldn't be called organic material. Really, it's should be called carbonaceous, because it is not biogenic. Biogenic means it is not generated by living organisms. They're thought to have brought volatile material to Earth when it was newly formed and helped in establishing the atmosphere and other conditions required to sustain life. So they brought these volatile material to Earth in the initial stages. Again, the next part is achondrites. So the difference here, they do not contain chondrules. They have lower abundance of volatile and are moderately volatile. So the amount of volatiles is less than in comparison to chondrites, and are usually much more coarsely crystalline than chondrites. So they are more they are more coarse grain sized. Okay, in the previous case we saw they were mostly sand size. The grains were mostly sand size. Sometimes they represent basaltic rocks in composition. Okay, and in texture also, all they do have coarse grains. Unlike basalt you will not be able to see those grains, and they crystallize from silicate melts or are residue of partial melting. So they are residue, so there has been some partial melting in this particular case. Okay, in case of achondrites, and they represent pieces of differentiated asteroids that have fragmented due to collision. Again, there is no consensus on this. Many times you will see in books it's written just that they have complex history. Okay, but the main difference is they do not have chondrules. Coming to the last slide. Okay, the importance of meteorites. So they help us understand stellar evolution. Stellar means star, because many of these meteorites also have stardust. Okay, or material which actually form the stars. They help us determine age and composition of the solar system, as well as age of the earth. They help us understand geological system evolution, geological history of earth and moon, and as well as history of life. Because history of life, you saw, for example, those carbonaceous chondrites, they brought some material to the earth, in that sense, volatiles and all. So again, we will not go through these parts in this lecture, because for example you will see applications of chondrites when we study igneous petrology, when we study uh, the the process of determining age of earth. Then we will again study these applications. So for the time being, if you have to write an answer in the end, for example, if you are asked to write about meteorites and type of meteorites, you can very quickly write these 4 or 5 points about applications of meteorites. Okay, so we are done with this lecture. So and we are open to questions now. Any questions?
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what about tektites, sir?
Again, tektites, it's not always like you will see in case of meteorites. They may be present even in case of earth, but there are many different types that are present. And again, they are mostly partially molten. Okay, so they're gravel sized bodies. They will usually, in that, what will happen in tektite is it will form as glass. Okay, due to uh, what happens, what is difference between tektites and meteorites. Tektites are not meteorites. Okay, first you need to understand that part. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, sir.
So what will happen is when there is asteroid impact, let's say on earth, what will happen is a lot of material will be ejected. Okay, and some material will be ejected here. And another thing that happens is a lot of heat is generated. Okay, a lot of heat is generated. That there is an asteroid impact. And what will happen due to this asteroid impact is that a lot of material is ejected, and this material, because it's cooled, it's a lot of it will be molten, melted. Okay, and now it's melted, and then what will happen? It is cooled very rapidly. What will happen when it is cooled very rapidly? It
There is
will
no
form.
time to blow
Different
crystals.
There is no time to grow crystal, so it will form what is called glass.
Glass.
Okay, and that is known as tektite. Okay, so it's not a type of meteorite. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, why Jovian planets have denser cores?
Because they are bigger. Simple. They are bigger. They will have more gravity in the center. Okay, and that there will be more compression. Okay, they're bigger in size. So
Sir,
it's as
for
simple as that.
no, non-geological background students, the speed is too high. I mean, to digest the things. So
Okay.
what else we can do, to, I mean, understand it better? Because I personally thought the speed is too high
Okay.
of the lecture.
Okay. So again, I think even for, yeah, I totally get your point. Okay. Especially which part? I think initial part you wouldn't have seen much problem.
Some part is actually, maybe it may not be difficult, but I was hearing the terms for the first time.
Okay.
So what I can do for this?
Okay. I get your point. So some of the terms I would say is we will go through this part. Don't worry. Okay, when we go to the lecture, one thing is first of all stop me during the lecture if you don't understand any part. Okay. Usually when I'm going through slides, maybe I'll be a little fast. Okay.
Hmm.
So for example,
Hmm.
I was assuming like for example this initial genesis of solar system and all that's not specific to geology. That's you study in a lot of I think
Hmm.
even if you're studying geography, general studies, you will study it over
Hmm.
there. But if you find like anywhere you are finding difficulty in any term, stop me there. And again,
Hmm.
thanks for the feedback. I'll try to be a little slow. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Considering like they're students from non-geology background. Okay. So
Hmm.
don't worry about that part. Okay. But
Okay.
anyway, don't do anytime you don't understand a particular part. I know the thing is for some subjects, these terms will come in uh, a lot of things are integrated. For example, silicate you are
Hmm.
hearing, mafic, ultramafic. If you don't understand that right now, don't really worry. Okay, it will start to come together when you study few more subjects. Okay, for example, when we study mineralogy, when we study petrology, what are different kinds of rocks. Okay, so you will start
Hmm.
to understand those particular parts. So don't worry if you even if you didn't get everything, but overall the main points you got from the lecture, like
Hmm.
what types of
Hmm.
meteorites and all those parts. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
and if there is
Yes.
any
Yes.
question, just stop me. Again, thank you for the feedback that you find
Okay.
it a little fast. Okay,
Okay.
all right. Any other questions?
So, do we have to study anything after this lecture?
Not really, because I've looked at the previous year questions that are usually asked. I don't go like two back, okay, usually like last 10 years. You don't really need to study a lot. Why I'm saying that is again, this is very important, okay. You may see a question, okay, from a particular topic, and you may think that this is, oh, I didn't study it. So if you look at overall topics, let's say this is entire geology topics that you can study from UPSC exam, where especially which are mentioned in the syllabus is this much. Okay, so there will be some topics here like this, which are very important. They appear again and again in the exam. Okay, and they will take 20% of your time for preparation. Okay, now you may see some questions each year. There will be one or two questions which lie in this zone, periphery. Okay, here, here, here. So there is syllabus is vast. It's not and it's very spread out. So the questions, it's not dense, they are not repeated. It will take 80% of your time for preparation. okay, and will not result in much. So for the first go, I'm saying just go through the slides. Okay, for the first stage of your preparation, just go through the slides. You will be able to target 80% of the paper. Don't worry, you have choice in the exam. Okay, if you start focusing on this particular part here, okay, every year there'll be some question on from this. You may have never heard of it. Sometimes even students who have studied, who have done PhD in geology, they will not be able to answer those. You will have to read research papers. It will not be even given in textbooks. You will have to read 4 or 5 research papers, and then you will be able to answer this question. Okay, don't focus your energy on that. These slides will cover most of this part, and a little bit of this also here, but most of the 80% of the part will be covered here again. So that's how I've prepared these slides. Again, a lot of effort has gone there, so don't waste time, at least during the first go of your preparation, going here and there. These slides will be more detailed than what you'll find in let's say Bangar or other Mapat or other books like that, because a lot of topics are there which are not present in those books. So it becomes really important from that perspective. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, I have doubt about, sir, you talk types of meteorites. Okay, sir. Sir, in this topic, if we get a question on in a question such as that, explain meteorites. So if we give types like iron meteorites, stone iron meteorites, and stony meteorites, how much content we have to explain it in the answer to get a maximum number of marks? So these slides are enough, so we can add to this our notes.
If you want, you can definitely add
Or
to your
we have
notes.
to read anything else.
So for the, again, I'm saying for the start, you don't have to read anything. The overall answer what you have to write will depend on the marks. Okay, sometimes it is asked as 8-mark question, sometime as 10 marks, sometime as 15 marks, and sometimes as 20-mark question. So it will depend on that particular part. Okay, so if it is an 8-mark question, you can just draw a table. Okay, and if you have to write it quickly, you have to get more and more marks. Okay, but if it is, let's say, a 15-mark question or 20-mark question, you have to write all these types. You have to define. So you have to structure your answer. You have to define what a meteorite is. Okay, it is, and we studied in the lab all those things. And then types of meteorites, draw diagrams also. Okay, maybe you can draw diagrams that you can show this is the metal part, this is the outside part, and then you will write that different types of meteorites. You draw diagrams. Of course, if you especially if you already have studied a little bit and then you want more details, you can add from your notes as well some of the things. I don't want to, because you see some students are already finding it like it's already going a little fast and it's a little advanced. So it's important to cover from this part, but and then you just write in there in your notes what those different types of meteorites are. And in the end, what you do is you just write about some applications of those meteorites as well. Okay, there are many other things that you can write. You will be able to write those once we move on to next subjects. I don't want to give everything in here. After you have completed the entire course, you will have more points to write. Okay, for example, how they help in determining age of Earth. You may write about Odo Harkins effect. Okay, evolution of mantle and all those points are there, but it's not important for the time being. Okay, but there should be structure in your answer in that sense. Okay, and then your answer will depend on how many marks it is asked in. Slides with annotation, I can actually make it available.
So
I can take snapshots of it and upload it on the slides. Yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Sir, so that after completing all the lectures, if we join the course, then we have to focus on the answer writing part, or we can start it making notes by the as module wise, module 1, module 2, or we have to wait till the lectures are end.
Don't wait to the end. Don't wait until the end. You can keep doing it now. Once we study, for example, this particular part, we finish it, then you start making notes of it. Look at the previous year. We'll share all the subject wise previous year questions. We will share, okay, which have appeared in previous exams. Many times they are repeated. So you can see like these are the main questions which are asked. Meteorites is always asked. Internal structure of Earth, seismic discontinuities, these questions are always asked. Just prepare notes on that part. Initially also you keep on preparing notes. So don't do that. I will finish the entire syllabus first and then I will move on to the answer writing part, because let me tell you one thing, you will never be able to finish the entire syllabus. It will never happen because there is no end to the syllabus. As I said, this outside boundary that you see here, It is not a fixed boundary. This red boundary is
Okay.
fixed. This is not fixed. Okay. It is like atmosphere of Earth. It just gradually fades
Okay,
away.
sir.
Okay. So
Thank
you will never be able to finish the syllabus. That will never happen. Okay.
So slides with annotations will be available on your website.
I can upload if you want. I'll have to take snapshots of these. If you want, I can just upload it. It's not a problem. Okay. I think one slide was missing about Jovian planets. I will upload that slide as well. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
So will we receive the recorded videos of these sessions?
Yes, you will. So go to the website. Okay. I think if you're in the Telegram group, we'll share the link. The course.
Yes.
Course is there. I think if you have already registered it, it will be uploaded on that course. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
So again, if you didn't understand a particular term, want to go through it again, want to study the slides in your own time, you can rewatch the lecture as well as the slides. Okay. All right, everyone. So I think it's already past 9:30. So yes. So good night, everyone. So see you again tomorrow, same time. Okay. I'll try to be a little slow tomorrow because today the
Thank
only
you, sir.
problem was today, like I have another class. So tomorrow we don't have the class. So see you all again tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.